Well, talking on the issue of restructuring is Akin Oyebode. He's a professor of international law and jurisprudence with the University of Lagos. Many thanks for joining us on the News at 10.
You're welcome.
Now, only yesterday, former head of state General Ibrahim Babangida condemned the spate of hate speeches from different groups in the country calling for restructuring. Today, some southern elders are calling for the same thing. Do you agree that this is a national appeal?
Well, I think better late than never for General Babangida to come on board. They were in power for God knows how long, and he has the opportunity to address the existential problems confronting Nigeria. I don't think he handled it properly. I think the more elderly Nigerians who are coming on board want to clear the deck before their demise. So I think there's a growing consensus in the country for the need to have a rethink or a fresh look at how we've been cohabiting and then make a leap forward in terms of consolidating the strands of unity.
Do you think our past mistakes were the problem, with the present? Well,
the Nigerian issue is so complex. You know, Achebe said it was just leadership. And I think Chino Achebe was right to a large extent. Chief Awolowo, who was one of the leading lights of federalism way back in 1947, declared that Nigeria was a geographical expression. We are not a nation like you have in Europe. So we are an artifice created by British imperialism. But nation building really is never a finished business. It's a work in progress. So we've had calls, strident calls for a sovereign national conference way back to the time of Alao Akabashorum. I was part of that. We were to hold a meeting in 1991 at the National Theatre. But the same General Babangida who sent his goons to disrupt that attempt at discussing whether we need to take a fresh look at the modalities of our cohabitation. And also we had many calls for a sovereign national conference in the sense that whatever is decided at that conference will not be tampered with by the powers that were then. In the event, we ended up with a conference in Abuja for a few months, which was not sovereign.
The 2014 conference.
That's correct. That's correct. And many of the actors today who are revisiting the issue were also members of the confab. Especially, I saw the footage of the meeting today. These are faces that graced at the national conference. That's why some of us were really appalled by the attitude of the Buhari government when it came to power, that it was not going to have anything to do with our conference. I remember the acting president also said that the restructuring was not an issue on the agenda. Now I think the chickens have come home to roost, and everybody is now saying that is the only panacea for the problems confronting Nigeria.
In your opinion, do you think Nigeria's interests have always clashed with the interests of its leaders?
Well, I don't know. I think this is a class matter. The people, the ordinary people, want a better Nigeria. But the ruling class, so to speak, they are wedded to the status quo. They don't want any change. I remember at the confab, when I raised the issue of Nigeria being a lopsided federal setup. I call it a caricature. And some people were trying to shout me down. I said we needed to discard the Abdul Salam Constitution, the Decree 24 of 1999, which many people still call the Constitution of Nigeria, which is a constitution that told a lie against itself. There was no time when Nigerians gathered together to adopt that constitution. So like Bola Ige said in his lifetime, that there are two issues that the national conference or national discourse should address. One, do we want to live together? And if so, how? Those are the two issues.
I wish we had more time. Many thanks, Professor Akin Oyebode, for coming on the News at 10 tonight.
No problem.